Hello and welcome back to HistoryCrafts. Today we're gonna have a small introduction video about the 30 Years' War. Many of you probably have heard about the 30 Years' War, but I want to set up a little framework so people who don't know anything about it still are able to, get the gist about what it was about, who were the main participants, and also how it ended. Also, in a few follow-up videos, I'm gonna talk about some people who were engaged in the 30 Years' War. For example, Albrecht von Wallenstein. So, before we get to start, make sure you have some drinks, you have some snacks, and you're in for some real history. The 30 Years' War was one of the longest and most devastating conflicts in European history. It spanned over much of Central Europe, but especially the Holy Roman Empire. It began as a local religious dispute and escalated into a continent-wide political struggle, involving most major powers of the time. And like I said before, this video is designed for viewers new to the subject and provides all the essential background to help understand the 30 Years' War. And also Wallenstein's role in the war. The war began in 1618 with the defenestration of Prague, when Protestant nobles threw two Catholic officials out a castle window in Bohemia. You have to remember, the Reformation also just happened a few years before, where the Christian church split into Protestants and Catholics. And this act of defiance against Habsburg rule sparked a wider conflict between Catholic and Protestant states within the Holy Roman Empire. Because as we all know, the Holy Roman Empire was a pretty fractured empire state, right? At its core, the war was about religious freedom, imperial authority, and political balance in Europe. But over the time, it evolved into a struggle for power and territory, with religion becoming just one part of a much larger geopolitical chess game. And many people like to split this war into four main phases actually. The first one is the Bohemian Phase, which was the initial rebellion of Bohemian Protestants against the Catholic Habsburgs. The Bohemian Phase kicked off with the defenestration of Prague, like I said before. They didn't want Ferdinand II as king, so they picked someone else. And of course, the emperor didn't like that. The big battle here is the Battle of White Mountain in 1620, 2 years after the start of the war. The Habsburgs absolutely crushed the rebels near Prague. After that, Catholic control is back in place. An interesting person in this time is also Frederick V, nicknamed the Winter King, because he didn't last that long. Just one winter. And also Count Tilly, a loyal Catholic general. The second one was the Danish Phase, where Protestant Denmark under King Christian IV enters the war, but is eventually defeated by Habsburg forces. Christian IV, the Danish king, wants to help Protestants in Germany, but it doesn't go well for him. He's beaten by two strong Catholic commanders, Count Tilly and also Wallenstein. Important battles during this phase include the Battle of Dessau Bridge and the Battle of Lutter. Both are solid wins for the Catholic side. So, by the end of this phase, the Protestant cause isn't looking too great, right? I mean, they lost the Bohemian Phase already and the Danish Phase. The third phase is also called the Swedish Phase. Sweden, then led by Gustavus Adolphus, invades to support Protestant causes and emerges as a powerful military force. In the Swedish Phase, things start to slowly turn around for the Protestants. In 1631, the Swedes win big at the Battle of Breitenfeld. 1 year later, they face off against Wallenstein at the Battle of Lützen. And Gustavus wins the battle. But tragically, he is also killed. It's kinda like a turning point, a win with a huge loss. Wallenstein is back here in the spotlight, but behind the scenes, Catholic France is already supporting Sweden, thanks to Cardinal Richelieu. And the last phase was called the Franco-Swedish Phase. And this one is a little bit more trickier, because then Catholic France joins the war against Catholic Habsburgs, and that was for political reasons, marking a shift from religious to a political conflict. Why? It's politics, it's about territory, it's not really about religion anymore. It's about the power in Europe. it was not about Protestants against Catholics. France was like, hey, maybe let's join Sweden, defeat the Habsburgs, gain some territory. Big battles included the Battle of Rocroi in 1643, where the French crossed the Spanish army, and the Battle of Jankau in 1645, one of the last big fights in Bohemia. Key names here are Cardinal Richelieu once again, and later Mazarin, Swedish generals like Lennart Torstensson and also Johan Baner, as well as Emperor Ferdinand III. So who were the main players in this war? Like I said before, the Holy Roman Empire, a collection of semi-independent states under the Habsburgs emperor, mostly Catholic, but also with Protestant factions. Then, of course, the Habsburg monarchy, which is Austria and Spain. Powerful Catholic dynasties trying to maintain control, and also the Catholic dominance, which has been reigned for the last few hundred years. Then, on the other side, we have the Protestant states, including Bohemia, parts of Germany, Denmark, and Sweden, who resisted the Habsburg rule. Of course, we cannot forget about France. Though Catholic, it entered the war to counter Habsburg's power and tipped the balance in Europe. The papacy and various Italian states also played a pivotal role. They generally supported the Catholic side, but played lesser military roles. And from these big main powers, the key individuals include Ferdinand II, the Holy Roman Emperor, Gustavus Adolphus, the Swedish king, and also a brilliant military commander. I'm gonna make a video about him later on. As well as Cardinal Richelieu, chief minister of France, who turned the war political. And of course, Albrecht von Wallenstein, the controversial general who led imperial armies and is the subject of our companion video later on. But why was this war so devastating? I mean, of course it lasted 30 years, which is pretty long if you think about like the modern days wars, right? There's some other wars which are longer, right? I mean, I actually have a small video about the longest wars in history you can check out if you want. But why was it so devastating? Massive armies ravaged the countrysides, leading to famine, plague, and also economic collapses. Civilian populations were frequently targeted or caught also in crossfire. Some regions of Germany even lost up to 1/3 of their population. And the use of mercenaries and poorly paid soldiers led to widespread looting and also violence. Just imagine it like a battlefield, but this battlefield is all over the country, right? It's not just like a battle fought there or like at the gates of some city or it's getting besieged or, the armies meet in the forest, whatnot. There was a constant threat everywhere. The war ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, which is a series of treaties that had a huge impact on Europe. It recognized the sovereignty of states over their own territories. It confirmed the right of rulers to determine their state's religion, called cuius regio, eius religio. I guess that's Latin and means, you have the right to determine the state's religion. It marked the end of religious wars in Europe as well. And this war also strengthened France and Sweden, and weakened Spain and the Holy Roman Emperor. Understanding just the concept or the framework of the 30 Years' War is essential to understanding Wallenstein, because he rose to power within this chaos, commanding vast armies and navigating the complex politics between emperor, allies and also enemies. His ambition, strategy and eventual fall are inseparable from the war's brutal and shifting nature. The 30 Years' War wasn't just a single war. It was a tangled web of conflicts that changed Europe forever. And whether you're watching our video on Wallenstein or exploring this period further, knowing these key facts will give you the foundation to understand how one man could rise to control armies, empires and eventually his own destiny. So, have you heard about the 30 Years' War before? Also, if you have more information about the war, you can gladly, comment and get us this information. In the future, there's also gonna be another video about the 30 Years' War. Maybe we're gonna do it like this. For each year of the war, we're gonna do 1 minute. So be excited for a 30-minute video about the 30 Years' War. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. You are gonna be prepared now for my next video about Albrecht von Wallenstein. So, if you don't want to miss that out, hit the notification bell and also subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, this is HistoryCrafts, where history crafts itself.